And I'm humbled and grateful to report that on May 1st, I will succeed Norman Dasher as CEO of the Hyde. Norm, I can't thank you enough for your leadership over the past 4 years, for the friendship that we share, for being my mentor, and for you, our Board of Trustees, and our staff, and our members for placing your faith in me to advance Mrs. Hyde's mission. Thank you, Norm. Congratulations. 2023 is our 60th anniversary as your world-class art museum, and we have much to celebrate. In June, we will host the landmark exhibition, Songs of the Horizon, David Smith, Music and Dance, which will feature over 25 works by David Smith and Dorothy Danger that illuminate the influence that song and dance had on David Smith's creations and his life, while telling many captivating stories of the artist's deep connections to our region. This exhibition will include a variety of collaborative programs with our region's arts and hospitality organizations, which we hope will build a successful foundation for future partnerships. As our collection has grown, so has our team of expert museum professionals. Over the last year, Caitlin Foley, Curator of Education and Engagement, Dr. Doreen Taniel, Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art, and Dr. Bryn Schockmel, Curator of the Permanent Collection, as well as Registrar and Collections Manager Rachel Lovelace Portal, have joined the Hyde. Please join me in warmly welcoming our curators, who will be available to you following these program comments this morning, along with our wonderful staff. At this time, I'll ask Doreen, the museum's first ever Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art, to share her impressions of the 3 exhibitions on view now in our galleries and about the bright and colorful future of our beloved museum. Doreen.
Thank you so much, John, and to all of you for coming to join us today. I feel very proud to be in this new role, given how important modern and contemporary art have been to the Hyde Collection. You know, the Hyde is often thought of as a repository of old masterworks, and certainly our Rubens and our Rembrandt are among our greatest hits. But Charlotte Hyde was certainly also collecting living artists during her day. As a public museum, our first modern gift came to us in 1995 in the form of the Murray Family Collection. That was 84 works of art. That was shortly thereafter followed by a gift of 47 works from Dr. Stephen Sills in the late 1990s. And most recently in 2016, we received a major gift of around 160 works of art, mostly modern and contemporary, from Werner Fibus and Jim Schmidt. And that was really a game-changing donation of works by major names in the history of art: Robert Motherwell, Sol LeWitt, Grace Hardigan, Pablo Picasso, Andy Warhol, and more. And that gift made clear that the museum needed a curator of modern and post-45 art, and I'm so glad to have been given that privilege. My first project here was overseeing this exhibition that you're all now standing in. This is a traveling show of 65 works on paper from the Harman and Harriet Kelly collection. It is one of the most comprehensive collections of work by African American artists spanning from the 19th through the 21st centuries, and it really contains essentially a who's who of African American greats, including Jacob Lawrence, Elizabeth Catlett, William H. Johnson, Aaron Douglas, Henry Ossawa Tanner, and many more. The show has very clear narrative threads, and when you have the opportunity to walk around the gallery, you'll see that it is arranged thematically, starting clockwise, starting with, over in that direction, scenes of labor, both urban and rural labor, then landscape, seascape, and cityscape, then a section on portraits, then a section on family and community, then recreation and leisure, and then behind me, modernism and abstraction. There's one section in the gallery on the temporary walls in the center, on the back side, where you'll see 7 works of art that deal with racial injustices, slavery, and civil rights. And so that's 7 works total of 65, means it's ultimately a pretty small percentage of the show. Only 7 works really deal with themes that are painful to African Americans. The rest of the show is decidedly upbeat, and this is very much by design. I had the privilege of speaking with Mrs. Kelly herself, who told me that from a curatorial standpoint, she and her husband, Dr. Kelly, wanted the show to reflect Black Americans as having rich, fulfilling, and positive lives. But of course, they couldn't leave the question of racial politics out of the story altogether. The final thematic grouping in the show behind me, Modernism and Abstraction, segues into the next show that we have on view in our adjacent Hoops Gallery. That is work by Sam Gilliam, the show was conceived very much as a companion to this show, because Gilliam was one of the first Black painters to fully embrace an abstract mode of expression, while his fellow Black artists, as you can see looking around this room, worked largely figuratively or representationally. There's really only one fully abstract work in this show, and that's right behind me by Sam Middleton. The Gilliam show was also conceived of as a tribute because Gilliam died last year in June, and we were also very sad to learn that Dr. Harmon Kelly, one of the two masterminds behind this show, he unfortunately died just 2 days before this show opened to the public. And lastly, we have in our Whitney Renz Gallery, we have a show of 13 works from our permanent collection by Jean Arp, who was a French-German sculptor and collage artist. He was one of the founders of the Dada movement in Zurich. He then went on to collaborate with the Surrealists in Paris in the 1920s, but ultimately he really went on to be his own one-man movement, creating works that combine an interest in psychoanalysis and free association, and in redefining what it means to depict the natural world. And that may be something that you find very hard to believe when you look at his work, but I will be happy to discuss the question of nature in Arp's work further with you after this presentation. I am delighted to now turn the mic over to my colleague, Dr. Bryn Schockmel, our curator of the permanent collection, who joined our staff just last January. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. It has been a very exciting and very busy first month for me here at the Hyde. I'm working on 2 exhibitions, which will be opening in the spring. The first, in celebration of our 60th anniversary year, focuses on our founder, Charlotte Hyde. Charlotte had incredibly diverse tastes when it came to collecting, ranging from medieval stained glass windows to contemporary paintings, as Durin mentioned. Really, really wide range of objects. And so this exhibition will showcase some of those works, particularly some treasures from the vault, which haven't been out on display in a while, some works on paper that are light sensitive and fragile and can't be shown very often. So some real treasures that highlight Charlotte as a collector in our 60th anniversary year. The other exhibition that I'm curating this spring is a recent acquisition show. As Durin said, we're constantly expanding our collection. Though the bulk of it may be the original Hyde's collection, we're always growing and adding to that, particularly in the fields of modern and contemporary art. So this show will look at some works that we've acquired in the last 5 years, with works by artists such as Marc Chagall and a contemporary glass piece by Dale Chihuly. So those will both be on view in the spring. As John mentioned, of course, we have our major David Smith exhibition in the summer, and then moving on into the fall, we have a traveling exhibition coming to the Hyde that focuses on Edgar Degas and his fellow Impressionists. And that'll be primarily works on paper, and it'll be complemented by an exhibition that we're putting together here of the Hyde's works by Degas. We have a very strong collection of works by Degas, who's known particularly for his images of dancers. So we'll have a lot of Degas and other Impressionist works to see in the fall. Then rounding out our 60th anniversary celebrations, next year we're doing a major exhibition that's called Growing Up in a Renaissance Palazzo. And this is being guest curated by Penny Jolly, who is a former art history professor at Skidmore College. She was actually my professor when I was at Skidmore many years ago, so I'm very excited to be working with Penny. And this exhibition will be a huge loan exhibition with works coming in from museums across the country. And it focuses on the stages of life from infancy to adulthood and how they were experienced during the Renaissance and how they were depicted in the arts, particularly works of art that you would have in your home. So it's all about sort of growing up in a Renaissance household. And at the same time, we're doing an exhibition here, growing up in Hyde House, because Hyde House is modeled after a sort of typical Renaissance palazzo. So we'll be thinking about what was life like for the children who lived here and how that connects to what life was like for children during the Renaissance. So we have a really exciting schedule of exhibitions coming up the next couple of years in celebration of our 60th anniversary. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Caitlin Foley, who is our Curator of Education and Engagement.
Thank you, Bryn. It is my pleasure to share with you today our successful revival of educational programming at the Hyde in 2022 when I started. A few highlights from our programming upcoming in 2023. We offer programming to adults, youth, and families in our community. Last year, we welcomed over 2,000 participants in educational programming, and of that, over 800 of them were youth from ages 1 to 18. Programming last year included guided tours, visual art classes and workshops, lectures and conversations, film screenings, book discussions, and dance performances. For 2023, we're excited to be offering school break classes and workshops, including our upcoming February break art exploration for youth in grades 3 through 6, and summer workshops for both elementary and secondary students. Additionally, our work with secondary students is expanding with ARPA funding that was granted from Warren County to develop needs-based programming for Glens Falls City School District students. We believe this partnership is a wonderful development, and with further resources, we can expand these offerings to other local school districts. Adult programming continues in 2023 with visual art classes in painting and drawing. On screen at the Hyde, which includes art documentaries and National Theater Live productions in our auditorium, music and dance performances, and programming that further engages a curious community with multidimensional arts experiences. I'm pleased to announce that starting in March, the Hyde will be open to the public for evening hours every third Thursday of the month. Extended hours along with our monthly free admission day, such as today, participation in programs such as Museums for All, which provides free admission to those receiving SNAP benefits, partial scholarships for tuition-based youth programming, all provide accessible opportunities for the Hyde to engage more diverse audiences. And I should also mention that we shared all of these wonderful exhibitions upcoming, and we do have the 32nd annual high school jury show will be opening May 6th. And it will run through June 4th, and it's a wonderful opportunity for the youth of our community, the surrounding towns and regions, all submit artwork, and we have a show of about 100 pieces here in this room. So we're very excited to welcome that back to the Hyde as well. I will now hand it back to John Leffner for a brief closing statement. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. At this point, we welcome you to tour the galleries, to enjoy the art, and to meet with our incredibly talented group of museum professionals who are happy to answer any questions that you have. But once again, thank you so much for carving out time today to be here to join us at the Hyde. Thank you.